and there was a hill beside the freeway. And so I ran up the hill, and I took pictures and brought them back, and just one of them turned out. But it was a timed exposure at night and things like that, so it was kind of hard to take pictures. And the object started circling the airport. We could watch the thing circle, and we could see the airplanes up above, and we could hear them. And that sounded just weird. And so I didn't know what direction it would go when it left, and I thought it might go the other direction. And so I was going to get on the freeway and go to the next intersection and turn the car around and come back, just because I didn't know. I wanted to follow it, but I didn't know where it was going to go. And so I got on the freeway. Well, this truck driver got right in behind me and started chasing me. And if I changed lanes or anything, he did the same thing if I slowed down or sped up. And he turned these bright lights on so that they shone in my mirror, and I was blinded. And I thought we were going to die. I said goodbye to my sister and asked her if she could see behind us, and she couldn't. And I didn't know how to get rid of him and survive, but I decided that I'd swerve off the left-hand side of the road at an intersection. And this was real dangerous in case somebody was coming up from on the right-hand side faster than us or something, although I had it floored. And I did that and got away from him. So then I drove on up to where the thing was still circling the airport. And then it took off and started going in the opposite direction, and we followed. And I drove through a bunch of roads, and finally I was on this real old, bad gravel road with potholes and houses a long ways away from each other and everything. And I couldn't keep up with it, so I turned around, and we went all the way back to New York because we couldn't find a place to stay. And then after that, I had a poltergeist experience. So it was quite an experience that we had.
Just going back to the guy, either the guy had a mental problem, number one, because you never know. Number two is maybe he was being, brainwashed by that UFO. That is always a possibility. But, you know what I would have done, Irene, after the second time he asked you? I would have said the opposite direction of what you told him the first time. That way he would have turned the right direction.
Well, I just didn't understand him at all. And, being a female there by a man at night, and one that was acting really, really strange. Well, and then we had the UFO that we were trying to figure out too. And so I wanted to get a picture of it. And so, anyway, I should have paid more attention to him, but I didn't. And I don't think she paid much attention at all.
Well, encounters like that, I had an encounter with my first wife. I took a job in North Carolina for a while, and I came from Seattle. And, I just didn't like the area. The company, the recruiter that hired me told me, oh, you'll love it. It's just like the Puget Sound area up in Washington State. You'll love it. I got there, and all I remember is my wife was crying because, the rich people lived in real nice houses. The people with medium income like me lived in mobile homes, and I just wasn't happy. And I decided, I had enough money just to come back as long as we didn't stay in any motels. So it was like a nonstop driving, with no dose to keep from falling asleep. And when we got into New Mexico, I think they didn't have a speed limit, or it was really high. So I was driving really fast. And all of a sudden, again, in the middle of the desert in New Mexico, I saw the whole area of around my car lit up like you wouldn't believe. And inside the car, it was so bright, it was hurting my eyes. So first thing in my mind, being in the military in the past, I figured, okay, it's a helicopter. I'm going to get busted for something at least here. So I pull off the side of the road, and I get out of the car, and I'm trying to look at the light, but it's hurting my eyes. And one thing I noticed, there was absolutely no sound, void of any sound of anything. And the light was so intense, around the car and lighting me up and lighting up inside the car. And maybe within a few seconds, it was poof, it was gone, like it was never there. And, it made me, for years, I wonder what it was. And then I was talking to Peter Davenport, who runs the National Reporting Center. He had an encounter like that, and he told me he gets a lot of people through the years. It had the same type of encounter where all of a sudden they're in their car, all of a sudden it gets lit up, they get out of their car, and it's, no sounds, no nothing, and then poof, it's gone. And it just makes me wonder if people are being abducted that way, or whatever. I mean, it's a scary situation to go through.
Well, it was pretty scary because I thought we were going to get killed. And we saw the car lit up in green twice. Once was when we were going toward the object, and once we were going away. But then when we could no longer see the object, we went past the place again. There was the light, the changed color wasn't there, and the car didn't light up in green. So it happened twice, but not 3 times.
Well, it makes you wonder, like Timothy Cullen, who had an implant removed by Dr. Roger Lear. When he was on my show, him and his wife were going to go to town. They stopped. I don't remember if it was railroad tracks. They stopped at a road, okay? And there was a hill or a small mountain on the side of them. And they noticed there was a UFO. And they watched it till it disappeared. They just stayed there. And then he went to the doctor several weeks later because before that he was in a car accident where he, didn't get any metal in his body or anything, but he was, hurt. And he goes in there and they do a whole bunch of x-rays. And then all of a sudden the doctor says, you got this metal thing in your arm. And, there's no puncture marks, no nothing how it got there. And that's when he contacted Dr. Roger Lear. And then, they did x-rays. They also did a mental evaluation on Timothy Cullen before they did any type of surgery. And when they removed it, it was an object. It contained silver. But the compound, how it was formulated, it was no way it could have been done on Earth. It was sent out to labs and all this stuff. It was really strange. And it's like all these people that had these implants done, they all had the same thing. It's the compounds could not been, structured on our planet. And and then what was really funny, talking to Timothy on another show of, interviewing him, he mentioned, after he had his implant removed, a period of time went by and him and his wife were going in town from where they live. They saw another UFO. And I said, well, Timothy, did you ever go back and have any more x-rays or anything? He goes, no. He goes, after the first ordeal, going through everything he had to go through, he didn't go back and check. And sometimes I try to tell him, I said, well, gee, you were abducted, evidently. You had an implant with you. Then after it's removed, a period of time goes by, you see another UFO basically in the same area. Maybe you were abducted again and they put an implant back into you.
Yeah. I wonder if there's some way the implant sends information.
Well, it must. I don't know. It's like, we take animals, right? And all this stuff to see how salmon, how they travel, how mooses, their territory, bear, how they, go through their travel through their territory. And we monitor them that. I mean, maybe they're monitoring, what we do as humans, our day-to-day life. Maybe they're keeping track of our health. Maybe they're keeping track of, our mental thoughts. Who knows?
Yeah, I did experiments like that with mice once, where we put implants in them, and then it would electronically we could calculate their temperature so that we could tell if they were going in a type of hibernation, like at night and things. And you wonder, maybe they have a telemetry system or something where they can tell more about people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, probably so advanced. I mean, wouldn't it be horrible if they could actually see what you see, think what you think, and keep track and monitor you, what your day-to-day life is, just to get an idea what humanoids do.
Yeah, I mean, my life is boring, but I imagine lots of people would be an exciting life.
Irene, how can your how can your life be boring when you work for the CIA? The CIA, what was it again now? DIA. I keep thinking because I had friends that worked with the DOD, and so it makes me wonder about these government agencies out there. But I mean, you gone through that. You wrote books on UFOs, so your life can't be that boring.
Well, I can't imagine it'd be that interesting to an alien, but I was just joking. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure you've been on other talk shows too, talking about your books and stuff. I mean, you have an exciting life, Look at the people that get around my age. They just sit on their couch and watch TV and watch Jeopardy reruns all day long. I mean, they don't have a life. Trust me.
Yeah, I guess I'm lucky. I do. So, yeah, I mean, I just don't know about it, but the implants, I don't know a thing about them, so you just wonder what is going on. The only thing I know about them is doing experiments myself with implants in animals.
Well, maybe don't forget, I mean, if there is such thing as aliens, right, and UFOs, their technology is way advanced than ours. Are they 5,000 years advanced more than us? 10,000? 500,000 years advanced? Maybe they don't look at us anymore than you looked at those rats that you implanted.
Yeah, except I thought the mice were pretty smart, actually.
Well, they can be. I mean, I think all, life can be, more intelligent than we give them credit for. Even insects actually learn patterns of things.
Yeah, I mean, bees are pretty smart. They have, about as much as we do. They can count, and they're conscious, and they have their own language and all kinds of things that you wouldn't suspect.
Yeah, and, on bees, they keep saying, the bee population keeps dying off. They don't know why, and they blame it on insecticides. The Earth's magnetic field is changing, and it's changing fast. And it isn't moving an inch a year anymore. It's moving like 3 feet or more a year now, and it's gradually speeding up. And you think about that, it's affecting not just like bees, which I think, they leave their hive one day and then they can't find their hive again and they die off. And then you look at even birds and stuff. People are finding in different areas big birds, like pelicans, for example. In one area I had a guest on that people thought they were prehistoric birds flying because they never seen a pelican fly by. It's changing everything because the Earth's magnetic field is shifting. And I think some of these animals and stuff, it's affecting, where they live and, and they're wandering into different areas they've never gone into before.
Yeah, they have to as the temperature changes and their environment changes. And, just if there's a lot of weight of ice on the poles, and if that melts, it distributes the weight differently all over the Earth, and that's going to make a difference in a lot of things. I mean, maybe earthquakes and things like that, too.
And volcanoes and stuff like that. I think it could cause some major problems. So that, okay, now you're going to have people, Irene, concerned about that tonight. It's not going to happen overnight. But then, trust me, I'm only a talk show host. Okay? A friend of mine who did a talk show, wrote a book with Whitney, basically the superstorm. I mean, something could happen. You wake up in the middle of the night because all of a sudden you're freezing, and all of a sudden you look out the window and there's 10 feet of snow. I mean, the earth changes can happen, gradually, or it could happen instantly. And people have to realize that.
Well, you're in Washington, aren't you?
Yeah. And you know what? In Washington last year, was it January, March? We never have weather. We might pump up to in March, up to maybe in the 50s. Last year, out of the clear blue moon, we hit 91 degrees for one day.